Hi, everyone. Nice to be here this morning. So, my name is Lisa Samet. I'm going to give you a few-minute introduction about myself and a few words about my new book. And then we're going to get right into today's topic, which is acceptance, something that about you all, but I certainly struggle with. So, I am a naturopathic doctor. I am originally from the States, New York, in fact. And I've lived in Montreal for over 20 years. I have a practice here focusing on holistic patient care using naturopathy, homeopathy, and in the last 5-6 years with more of a focus on emotional health and emotional repatterning, as I've come to call it. So here's my new book, which actually ships this week. In the UK, I believe, as well as in North America. So it's called Emotional Repatterning, Healing Emotional Pain by Rewiring the Brain. And Susie and Change Your World Every Day has been kind enough to invite me this week to be your coach, your guide through some of these topics. They're pretty meaty. I think the best thing to do is choose one or two topics each day and just gradually kind of go through it, leaving room for questions. I'll comment on your comments in the chat box, so feel free to shoot me some comments as we go. We'll keep it pretty informal so that I can also get to your questions and your comments. Okay, so let me give you a few concepts in the book, which will be a little bit of a groundwork for our week together. And so what is emotional repatterning exactly? So it's a term that I coined for a desire to show up differently in our own lives. Why would we want to do that? Because I'm sure you've all noticed, life has a lot of challenges. Life is filled with, I will call them growth opportunities when I'm in my best place mentally, challenges maybe, or growth opportunities, depending on how you want to look at it on any given day. So what does that mean? A lot of us are in pain. A lot of us are suffering. How do we know that? Well, the rates of antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications increase each year to some astronomical number worldwide. When I read that number at the beginning, I was really completely shocked. And that means that many of us are in pain. So what can we do about that? Is there anything we can do? Well, certainly what I've noticed in working with patients over the years is that we're all suffering with more or less the same issues. I mean, the details are different, obviously, but the issues underlying each of our individual stories are largely the same. So when I realized that, it was a big kind of nickel-dropping moment, because if we're all struggling with more or less the same issues, I kind of thought, well, why didn't anybody ever teach us about this if it's so common to being a human on planet Earth? How come we were never educated in this stuff with how to deal with life better? And, you know, my resounding conclusion to that is that the people who raised us themselves didn't know. Our teachers didn't know, our parents didn't know. People generally don't know this information. And that's, I guess, kind of sad, because humans are not new on this earth. And I imagine we've all been struggling with the same things forever. But when it became obvious to me that all of the issues that we struggle with could more or less be streamlined into what I call 8 thinking traps. Well, with 8 thinking traps, if we could understand the terrain there, maybe we could show up a little better in our lives. So this week, I'm going to go into probably not all of them, but at least some in depth, some of the 8 thinking traps, and we're going to kind of expose them, learn about them, talk about them, and hopefully you will be able to question how these apply in your own life and can you show up any better. On our last day together, which is Friday, I'm going to actually teach you a technique, which is a technique to help us go into our subconscious mind and identify limiting beliefs there, negative limiting beliefs, patterns of thinking, habits of thinking that are destructive, that don't serve us. When exposed to the light of day, we have the opportunity to change, to upgrade, like a software upgrade. So I'm looking at some of your comments. So hello to everyone. Yes, Susie, I agree with you. They are hard to recognize as growth opportunities when they're in the middle of it. I was just talking with someone in my office earlier, waiting to log on, about challenges and, kind of knowing what's right and then switching into the other part of our brains, which is the reactive part, which is the suffering part, right? So we go back and forth from our wisdom to, okay, but today I'm struggling with this. So we all do it, right? These things are goals. These are ways we're striving to, improve, to work toward. It's not a magic wand, and you all know that because you've been doing your work. I know because you're in this group to start with. Okay, in the book, we have 8 thinking traps, some of which we will talk about this week, and then at the end of it, we're going to teach you some techniques which are incredible techniques. I mean, simple, easy to do, and powerful. Okay, so that's the little carrot I'm dangling for you to stay with us all week, because on Friday, I think you're going to be very pleased with some of what I'm going to offer you. And of course, it's described in detail in the book Emotional Repatterning, but I'm going to give you enough of a taste of it that you're going to be able to use this tool every day. And this is going to help us really get in there, identify the negative beliefs, the thought patterns, and we're going to upgrade those. And when we do that, it's going to feel like this 50-pound bag of rocks that we're carrying on our back is actually going to get lighter and lighter. Because the better we feel about ourselves and the more powerful we feel inside ourselves, guess what? The better it all looks. And we're going to talk about that when we talk about the thinking trap called responsibility. But for this moment, let's come back to the topic of today, which is acceptance. So what does it mean, acceptance? It's a whole chapter in my book, and the little kind of quote that I put in under that chapter is the following: the gap between how things are and how we think they should be is equal to our suffering. So when you really think about that, the difference between how reality is and how I think reality should be, the gap between those two things is my suffering. So when we understand that equation, we can kind of realize that I'm not going to change reality. So that only leaves one thing left, which is how I think things should be, right? If there's 2 parts of the equation and I can't change one, well, I can change the other. So how I think they should be, the more that I can close that gap and align how I think things should be with how they are, means I suffer less. In fact, if I can get all the way to thinking that things should be as they are, well, I'm not going to suffer very much, because I'm not arguing with reality. I'm not arguing with life. I'm not arguing with how people are, how situations are. Honestly, if I would just tell you this is the very hardest one for me, there are 8 thinking traps, and I think to this day I still struggle with this one the most. Why is that? Because I keep thinking that people should be different in how they are. I think things that are happening shouldn't be happening that way. They should be happening another way. And every time I argue with life, guess who loses? Me, not life. So, when I realize that I'm suffering because I'm arguing inside my head with how people are, how things are, wow, I can click into, you know what? Everyone and everything is exactly as it should be. How do I know that? Because that's how they are. And it sounds actually ridiculous, like circular logic, like almost too simple. But isn't that life, right? When we realize we've hit upon something simple, we're probably there. We're probably right. Life is actually not complicated. We complicate things. So when we realize we're complicating things, we can say, what's simple? Things are this way. People are this way. Who am I to argue with any of that? That's the way it is. Why don't I just align myself with that's how it is and reduce my suffering? Yes, it's that easy. So I would invite you to look at all the places in your life where you're arguing with yourself inside your head. He shouldn't be that way. She shouldn't have said that. My boss shouldn't be that way. My husband shouldn't be that way. My girlfriend shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have this problem. Well, guess what? Wrong. We're exactly where we need to be with the people and the situations that we need to be with. How do we know? Because we're there. Okay, so, try to chew on that and see what that means to you. So Roy is saying his expectations of people is the primary cause of my suffering. Yes, me too, Roy. Me too. So when you realize you're doing it, you have the option to say, I can stop that. I can stop that argument. I can say, you know what? She's exactly the way she should be. It may not work for me. That's fine. But I can't change her. And who am I to say anyone or anything should be different? Right? So one of the ways people struggle with this word acceptance is that people think acceptance means liking. That's not true. I can accept someone, I may not like them. I can accept my situation, I may not like it. Okay, so maybe that helps. I can accept everything as it is and not argue with myself that it should be different. But I can also acknowledge that I don't like it. Well, yes, I'm not saying stuff your emotions, not at all. This is how it is, and I don't like it. Great. That feels to me on much more solid ground. If then I want to say to myself, okay, I don't like it, well, then what do I want to do to change it, right? When we accept things, it doesn't mean we like them. When we accept things, it doesn't mean we can't change something, right? Acceptance doesn't mean sitting on my couch with a bunch of chocolates or even worse, a pina colada, and zone out and watch Netflix. I mean, that could be fun. But that's not what we're talking about with acceptance. We're talking about three things. One, stop arguing with reality. Two, I'm going to say I can accept it even if I don't like it. And three, if I don't like it, well, how can I show up better to change something in the dynamic so I like it better? If it's not working out because I don't like my boss and they haven't promoted me even though I've done all good work and they don't pay me enough and all the arguments I have and I'm constantly arguing and not accepting, so what does that look like? I can say, okay, I accept it. This is the job. They don't promote me. They don't recognize me. They don't see my worth and value. I accept that that's how it is. I accept that this is the nature of this job. Then I can say, you know what? I don't like that. I accept it, but I don't like it. And then I get to go to, okay, if I don't like it, do I have any leverage here? What can I do to change something? What can I do to make a change so that I'm happier, that I like things better? Okay, well, there's my sphere of influence. There's something I can actually do. But it's coming from a better place. I'm not fighting with reality. I'm not arguing with what is. I accept what is. And I realize what is doesn't work for me. Okay, wow. Now what do I want to do with that? Okay, so it just feels really different, right? It's not disempowering to accept something, right? It can be very empowering, but we come from a place of not being angry, not arguing with life, accepting life and saying, okay, now what do I want to create for myself from this clear-headed understanding of how things are. So yes, acceptance is huge. Acceptance is huge. It takes away all the arguing, all the mental gymnastics that we do, right? It just takes all the steam out of the thing. And it's like, okay, I accept it. I don't like it. I have choices. Maybe I choose not to make any changes right now because there are other aspects in my life that don't support upheaval. That's fine. You don't have to make a change because you realize that you don't like something, even though you accept it. You know, change has its own timing, divine timing sometimes, right? So we don't always decide to make a change, but we know that change is within our sphere of influence. Change is within our power. We can make a change if we want, when we're ready to do it. We can kind of put the building blocks of change in place and gradually walk toward change if change is too scary right now, right? But the idea is to empower ourselves and stop arguing with life, right? Arguing with life is a losing strategy. I don't know about you, but every time I've gotten into an argument with life, I have lost. If you have a secret, by the way, to that, I'm open to hearing it. So, you know, I'll give you a little analogy. You know, a friend of mine, who's a guy friend, has a wife that, you know, he's constantly saying to me, you know, can you believe she did this? Can you believe she said this? And I was so frustrated, you know, why is she like that? Constantly arguing in his head and with his friends about her, how she shouldn't be like that. And, you know, one day, having been a good friend for a long time and listened attentively, I got kind of fed up and I said, you know what? Your wife is 5'6". You think she should be 5'9", but she's not 5'9", she's 5'6". You either kind of get on board with the fact that this person is 5'6" and they're never going to be 5'9", and you come to accept that the person is 5'6", and that's it, that's all, and that person is not going to grow to be 5'9" because you think 5'9" is a better height. Never going to happen. So what are your choices? First, you accept, person's 5'6". Then you get to ask yourself, okay, do I like people who are 5'6"? Maybe yes. Maybe I can say, you know what, I didn't realize. I accept it, and I actually like people who are 5'6". I'm good with that. But maybe you say, you know what, I don't like people who are 5'6". I like people who are 5'9". Now what? Okay, well then, you get to make some choices, right? Yeah, life knows best would be helpful if it just gave us the heads up. Well, you know what, I agree with you. But I find that life gives us plenty of heads up. We are often just not listening. We're so busy in our head with these arguments, right? These arguments about how things should be, that life is often giving us little symbols and guide points along the way, but we are not looking for that because we're so busy arguing with life. Because, you know, for me, when I understood that half of my misery, at least, was the fact that I am constantly thinking things should be different than they are, when I really got that, wow, that was huge. Because when I catch myself arguing with how different people and things and situations should be, and I'm just like, you know what, that's how he is, that's how she is, that's how it is. Well, the relief I felt about that was enormous. Then I just felt like, wow, now I get to make decisions about what I want to do. Okay, so some people think this is helpful. Just had this realization with someone, their behavior is unreasonable, but I've constantly wasted energy trying to change it. I let go at the weekend and feel so much lighter as a result. You know, me too. Me too. This works. Okay, this is a thinking trap. What is the difference between a thinking trap and a subconscious belief? Well, a thinking trap is more like in your conscious mental mind, right? These are thinking errors that we make. And when we realize the error of our conscious thinking, wow, we can just say, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore. You know, I'm too smart. I value my health. I value my happiness too much. I'm not going to do that anymore. This is a conscious decision. Super helpful, these 8 thinking traps of the conscious mind. Okay, what we're going to go into a little bit more on Friday is more about how the subconscious limiting beliefs support our continual, I guess, addiction, you can say, to these thinking traps that, you know, we realize don't really work, but we keep doing them anyway, right? So we're going to get into the subconscious mind quite a bit more on Friday when we're together. Right now, we're just exposing these thinking traps, which, as of now, you can say, okay, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. It doesn't work for me. It's contributing much to my happiness. Okay, the person I'm most critical of is me. Any tips? Yeah, good point, Roy. Well, how do we apply this to ourselves, right? So how would that look on any given day? So I show up in my own head and I'm critical of myself. And then I realize, you know what? I'm a work in progress, right? If I was already perfect, I would not have come to planet Earth. That's how I feel about it. When we have evolved to the point of being perfect, we don't come here. Maybe there's another planet. Maybe there's someplace else. Maybe we just stay in this grand universe and float around as souls and try to help others. I'm not exactly sure what that looks like. But what I am sure about is we don't come to planet Earth if we're perfect. Okay, Earth is a school. We come here when we need to learn and grow. So if I'm confronted with myself in an area that I don't do a good job, how dare I be hard on myself and self-critical? By definition, I'm here and in Earth school. So of course, I am not perfect. And of course, I don't know everything. And of course, I am here to learn things. That means that I don't do things right all the time. You know, if you have kids, it would be the perfect example. If your kid comes home and the teacher writes a note in kindergarten that the penmanship isn't good or that the letters are written backward, do you scream at your kid and say, well, you know, your older brother in 5th grade is doing it perfectly. How come you're making all these mistakes? Of course we wouldn't do that. We would say, well, you know, the kid's in school. In school, we learn things. Nobody knows penmanship. Nobody knows the letters. They're not born with that knowledge, right? We go to school to learn various things, and we are taught, and then we graduate each grade, and then we get bigger lessons, better lessons, and we learn and we grow. Of course, we all know that. And what if Earth was a school in the exact same way? And we're here at whatever level we're at, whether it's kindergarten, elementary school, high school, university, PhD level, wherever we're at, we are taking on the task in front of us to learn and grow. Well, why would we yell at ourselves if that's the new paradigm? Right? Doesn't make any sense. Of course we're compassionate with ourselves. We're not supposed to learn certain things. That's why we're being confronted with those things, so that we can learn and grow. What is the benefit of the self-criticism? Nothing, as far as I can see. In my life, when I have been the most self-critical is when I have done the least good work, whether work externally or work within myself, right? When I feel bad about myself, I don't do a great job. Who would? If I'm constantly telling myself that I'm falling short, well, how am I going to show up for the next challenge? Not very well, right? What if I said to myself, I'm exactly where I need to be? In parentheses, acceptance. I'm exactly where I need to be, confronting exactly what I need to confront. I accept that it's all perfect. Now, can I do so with kindness? Can I do so with compassion? Can I do so with an open heart? And then won't I show up better? I don't know anybody who's perfect. I myself am certainly far from perfect, right? It's not about perfection. And if it has been about perfection for you, and it was about perfection for me, can we drop that bag of rocks at the side of the road? It's really heavy. The road is hard enough. Why carry, optionally, a 50-pound backpack? Doesn't make sense. That's our choice, right? Let's put the backpack off to the side. Drop it. You know what? I'm not perfect. I'm here to learn and grow. If I was perfect, I wouldn't have come. So when I'm presented with challenges or areas I fall short, what's the best thing to do? Think of the kindergartner. You give a big hug, you say, of course, sweetheart, of course you don't know everything. You're at school to learn. So you're learning the letters. When we learn, we make mistakes along the way. That's fine that you made a mistake. All you need to do is show up with your best. That's perfect, right? It's perfect to show up with your best, not to be the best, right? Not to get it all right. Okay, what we want to do is show up with our best, which is an imperfect best by definition. Yes, Earth School. When we think about it that way, if we could actually embrace this idea that we have enrolled in a program at school, right? It's an 80-year course, give or take, right? Some of us get to stay longer. Some of us leave quicker. Let's call it an 80-year school. It's a long program, but it goes fast, right? We know that it goes fast. We're here to learn. That means we're not perfect. That means we're going to be confronted with opportunities to learn. We'll talk more about that in this week. But idea for today, acceptance, accepting me, who I am, accepting other people, accepting situations, knowing that exactly as it should be is exactly as it is, not arguing with life, closing the gap between reality and how I think things should be, right? When it's like this, I don't argue anymore. Now I get to move to, okay, if it doesn't suit me, where's my power? What can I possibly change about this situation? Can I move things forward a millimeter, a centimeter, a foot, a mile, a kilometer, right? Where is my sphere of influence? Okay, so I think that maybe we're going to end here. There's an expectation when we're adults we should know all the answers. I don't know where that comes from, but you know what? A gift we can give to our children is to tell our own children that we don't know all the answers, that we are also a work in progress. We may have more life experience than them, but I find with my kids, they're often a lot smarter than I am on some of these subjects. So maybe we're learning from them as much as they're learning from us. Okay, so blessings to everyone. I hope this was of some value. We will be together tomorrow at the same place, same time. And I'll be happy to answer any of your questions then about our topic today. If not, we're going to move into another topic. And we will explore it in the same depth, and hopefully you'll get some tidbits out of that. Okay, so have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow live.